Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's a pleasure, and it's great to work with the Digital Chamber of Commerce as well. I know that many of you are developers, innovators, and entrepreneurs, or that you're from financial institutions. Understandably, your ability to innovate is critical to the delivery of new financial products and services. Financial crimes compliance sometimes becomes an afterthought in that process, and I think we need to change that. We can't put growth and innovation before compliance and manage compliance as a cost center. We need to avoid turning AML-CFT and sanctions compliance programs into paper programs for compliance. What I mean by that is that your AML program looks functional, but it isn't fully implemented or otherwise doesn't give your compliance teams what they need to identify suspicious activity flowing through the institution. It may not be apparent in the moment as you push for that extra competitive edge in your product or service, but decisions at each step of design and launch have real-world consequences for compliance, for whether bad actors are going to target and abuse your offerings. AML-CFT compliance should not come at the expense of innovation. I know I've said it at events like this before, but I truly believe that technological innovation and AML-CFT compliance can go hand in hand. To make that work, though, you have to consider compliance at the conceptual, design, and implementation stages of new technologies and products. And we at FinCEN are working to build a regulatory framework that creates the room to foster all the positive features of innovation without losing sight of combating financial crime. We value public-private partnerships and are ensuring that regulatory work stays up to date by engaging with the financial sector and other innovators in this industry through advisories, alerts, and FinCEN exchanges. FinCEN was one of the first regulators to issue guidance in 2013 on the regulatory treatment of digital assets. We believe that setting predictable standards is an important part of fostering responsible financial innovation. The type of innovation that helps ensure that bad actors can't take advantage of the innovations more effectively than the good guys. Simply said, I think our goals are aligned. I think we can all agree that regulatory agencies and industry have a collective interest in building confidence in innovative financial products and services, while ensuring that they do not facilitate illicit financial activity. I think we all want to protect the U.S. financial system from illicit actors. I'd like to focus on a few current themes that I see as important in ensuring responsible innovation in this space, and they relate generally to the differentiation between the concepts of privacy and anonymity. And in particular, I want to delve into three topics. What the differences between privacy and anonymity are, what risks we see that anonymity can pose, and what a risk-based approach could look like for responsible innovation that effectively manages and prevents the threat of illicit finance. There's been a lot of discussion about the differences between privacy and anonymity. There can certainly be legitimate reasons for why responsible actors might want to conduct financial transactions in a secure and private manner. We fully recognize that at FinCEN. We see privacy and anonymity, however, as distinct. Though they may exist on a spectrum in some respects, we grow concerned when we see things creeping closer to anonymity, an effort to make funds flows untraceable. Last summer, the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy sought public feedback about how privacy-enhancing technologies can be used to preserve private information in a future data ecosystem. As OSTP noted, privacy-enhancing technologies have not achieved widespread adoption for a variety of reasons, among them the need for more research and development, limited technical expertise, perceived and possible risks, financial costs, and the lack of generalizable solutions. FinCEN concurs with OSTP's conclusions, but we would add that what also matters is how these technologies will be developed and implemented. And it's here that I would like to make an important distinction. Frequently, we see discussions that conflate the concepts of privacy and anonymity, and these concepts are not the same. The defining feature of privacy-enhancing technologies is privacy, and more specifically on how data is stored, used, transited, and protected. That is, that information can and should be better protected. It is not anonymity. Privacy does not mean that information should not be available to competent third parties in appropriate circumstances, such as financial institutions, law enforcement, and regulators. Because at the end of the day, there will always be some need for recourse when something goes wrong, when some illegal activity occurs. There will always be a need for service providers to be able to identify suspicious activity and for law enforcement to get to the who behind illicit transactions in order to prevent, investigate, and prosecute illegal activity. Which brings me to an important concern at FinCEN. We're concerned when emerging technologies appear to or try to make financial transactions entirely untraceable or anonymous. We see projects being developed and marketed under the umbrella of privacy that are, in fact, deliberate attempts to conceal or obfuscate. That would make it much more difficult to follow the money. These technologies are ripe for abuse by illicit actors that harm the security of the U.S. financial system and even our national security. We all know that cybercriminals are often the first to exploit the newest innovations, whether they are new products, new delivery channels, or new technologies. For example, we've already seen cases of attacks and abuse against DeFi platforms, or the use of social media platforms to peddle fraudulent virtual currency investments, and even fraudsters leveraging recent advancements in artificial intelligence. If we're going to collectively build a digital world where more and more of life is online, from our IDs to our money, then we need to do it in a way that prevents the abuse of technology by bad actors, or at the very least generates a trail for investigators to follow if something goes wrong. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about what it means to take a risk-based approach to designing and developing financial technology. Let's put aside the debate over know your customer requirements and look more at what we talk about when we talk about risk. Ask yourself, when you're designing your product, your service, or your company, how can you best show that your company is doing business in a responsible manner and in a way that it can be a trusted partner to others? What types of clients do you envision using your product and service? The tech industry has always championed a move fast and break things culture. I'm with you on the innovation aspect of it. And all of the AML-CFT obligations that I'm talking about probably sound like cost sinks, but I urge you to rethink that. I don't think you want your products or businesses to be known for providing cash-out services to producers of child sexual abuse material, or ransomware gangs, or supporting the North Korean regime. For financial institutions, you're probably wondering how you can best detect and prevent illicit activity at your institution and assist law enforcement when your exposure to privacy-enhancing technologies isn't so obvious. The principles are the same. You need to ask the questions to relevant teams and challenge them on whether they know who is behind a given transaction or account. You need to ensure that your transaction monitoring systems are appropriately tuned for higher risk activities. And you need to report suspicious activity in a complete and timely manner and comply with record-keeping requirements. It's hard to appreciate an enforcement action when it directly or indirectly impacts your business. FinCEN has had to act decisively when anonymity was prioritized over AML-CFT compliance commitments. We have demonstrated that there are consequences when we see willful failures to comply with applicable AML-CFT requirements, and that financial institutions must implement controls that are commensurate with the risks posed by the products and services that they offer. In October of 2022, we assessed a civil money penalty of over $29 million in enforcement action against a VASP that, among other things, failed to implement appropriate policies, procedures, and internal controls around anonymity-enhanced cryptocurrencies. In January of 2023, we used a new authority granted by the Combating Russian Money Laundering Act to identify the VASP Bitslato as an entity of primary money laundering concern in connection with Russian illicit finance. Bitslato had facilitated anonymous money transmission services on behalf of Russian ransomware operators, including Conti and other illicit actors as well. More broadly, FinCEN has also taken action against non-compliant virtual asset mixing services. Mixers that do not comply with AML-CFT obligations create an environment where anonymous transactions can be used to facilitate illicit financial activity. Again, as responsible members of the U.S. financial system, all of us in the digital assets ecosystem, developers, miners, exchanges, and everyone in between, need to help ensure that they are not allowing their businesses to be exploited by criminal elements and non-compliant VASPs that facilitate criminal activity. Because unfortunately, even legitimate and enterprising participants are finding that their innovations are being misused by malicious nation-state actors or by illicit groups seeking to abuse the financial system. And it's important to channel the industry brain trust towards solutions that help protect the integrity of the financial system and help to protect our national security as well. This is why at FinCEN, we are constantly assessing innovation in the space to identify areas that need attention. FinCEN will continue to look for ways to ensure an effective regulatory framework for participants in the digital assets marketplace, including by evaluating how our regulatory framework is responsive to changes in the digital assets ecosystem. In closing, we are partners in this space, and collectively, we have an obligation to elevate the standards for transparency, accountability, and innovation. We all play a role in maintaining a secure, fair, and transparent financial system, and I look forward to working with all of you collaboratively on this as well. So thank you so much.